Hey everyone, and welcome back.
Yeah.
We're diving into a topic today that you specifically requested, how to think like a programmer.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be good.
We found this really cool article from Algo Academy
Mm-hmm.
called How to Think Like a Programmer, Tips from Experts. And wow, it is packed with insights.
It really is. And it's interesting how this is relevant now to so many people, even if you're not, in the tech world.
Right.
It's becoming more and more important to be able to problem solve like this. It's like a superpower in our increasingly digital world.
Totally. And we're talking advice from the best of the best here, right?
Okay.
Google, Amazon, Netflix. These guys are like the Jedi Masters of tech.
I like that.
And guess what? One of the first things they emphasize is
What's that?
it's surprisingly simple. Break it down.
Right. Sounds obvious, but it's amazing how often we forget this.
Yeah.
At Google, they call this the divide and conquer strategy. You're basically taking a complex problem, right?
Yeah.
And breaking it into smaller, more manageable pieces. Kind of like, think of it like building a Lego masterpiece. You wouldn't try to snap all the pieces together at once.
Right.
You start with these smaller sections and you kind of gradually build towards that bigger picture.
That's such a good analogy. So instead of getting overwhelmed by like this mountain of code,
Yeah.
a programmer can focus on one function at a time.
Yeah.
And like you said, build towards that final product.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial point. The article highlights planning.
Okay.
It's so tempting to just dive right in, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Straight into the code. But the experts, even those from Amazon, they stress that a little bit of planning goes a long way.
I'm curious, what kind of planning strategies are we talking about here? I feel like my idea of planning is like a to-do list on a sticky note.
Well, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. The article actually shared this really cool technique that one of the Amazon tech leads uses. They call the 5-minute plan. So basically, before starting any task, they take just 5 minutes, jot down the key objective, main steps involved, and any potential roadblocks they might encounter.
5 minutes, that's it.
Yeah.
It seems almost too simple,
Yeah,
but I can see how that would make a huge difference in terms of clarity and focus.
absolutely. And, that's something anyone can apply regardless of profession.
Right.
Whether you're writing a report, planning a presentation, or even just organizing your day,
Yeah.
Those 5 minutes of focused planning can save you a ton of time and frustration down the line.
Okay, that's a game changer. So we talked about breaking down problems, planning. Now let's talk about these mystical things called algorithms.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love a good algorithm.
They seem to be at the heart of programming,
Yeah.
but the article emphasizes that it's not about rote memorization. It's about understanding the underlying principles.
Exactly. You don't need to memorize every single algorithm out there. That would be like memorizing a cookbook instead of learning how to cook.
Uh-huh.
It's about grasping those core concepts, the why behind them.
So it's more about the why than the what, which makes it applicable even outside of programming, right?
Absolutely. I mean, think of it this way. You don't need to know the exact recipe for every pasta dish to be a good Italian cook.
Okay.
You need to understand the fundamental techniques like how to make the dough, how to cook the sauce, how to pair flavors. Once you have that down, you can create endless variations.
Right.
And algorithms are kind of similar. It's about understanding those building blocks of problem solving, but in a computational way.
That makes so much sense. So it's about seeing those patterns, the logic, the strategies behind these algorithms.
Yeah.
Speaking of problem solving, let's face it, even the most brilliant programmers come face to face with those pesky little things called bugs.
Oh, tell me about it.
What does the article have to say about those?
Bugs, those little glitches in the matrix. They can certainly be frustrating. But the article frames them in a really interesting way. Like, it encourages us to approach debugging with a sense of curiosity, almost like detectives searching for clues.
I love that. So instead of getting frustrated, it's more like, all right, bug,
Mhm.
what are you trying to tell me here? What piece of the puzzle is out of place?
Exactly. And speaking of detective work, one of the most effective debugging techniques I've come across is something called the rubber duck method.
Okay, I have to admit that name definitely piqued my curiosity.
Right.
What in the world is the rubber duck method?
It's simpler than it sounds. Okay, so imagine you're explaining your code line by line to a rubber duck,
Okay.
or really any inanimate object.
Right.
The act of verbalizing your thought process, even to something that can't understand, it forces you to slow down
Yeah.
and articulate each step.
Right.
And this can often help you pinpoint errors that you might otherwise just glance over.
That's brilliant. And you know what? That's not just a programming tip. That's a life tip.
Right.
How many times have we struggled with a problem, only to have that solution dawn on us while we're explaining it to someone else.
All the time.
It's like this rubber duck method just formalizes that process.
Precisely. And it highlights something that the article emphasizes: creativity in problem solving.
Okay.
You know, it's easy to think of programming as this purely logical pursuit,
Right.
but finding those elegant, innovative solutions often requires a good dose of creative thinking.
That's interesting because I always thought of programming as very left-brained, very analytical. But you're saying there's an art to it as well.
Absolutely. It's about finding that aha moment, that unexpected connection that leads to a breakthrough. I remember working on this project. We were dealing with these massive data sets,
Okay.
and the traditional methods were just too slow.
Right.
And one of our team members, thinking outside the box, suggested using a technique called dynamic programming. Now, without getting too technical, imagine it like this. Okay, so instead of solving the same subproblem over and over again, we store the solution the first time we encounter it,
Okay.
and then reuse it whenever it pops up again.
So it's like caching the solution for later use,
Exactly.
making the whole process much more efficient.
Exactly. And this creative application of dynamic programming, it dramatically sped up our processing time.
Wow.
It was a true testament to the power of looking beyond just, the obvious solution.
That's incredible. It really goes to show that sometimes the most elegant solution isn't always the most obvious one.
Right.
And speaking of constantly evolving, finding new approaches, the article really hammers home the importance of lifelong learning in the tech world.
Yeah.
That's not exactly breaking news, is it?
Not at all. In this industry, if you're not learning, you're falling behind.
Right.
Technology moves at a dizzying pace,
Yeah.
and what's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow. But, this concept of continuous learning, it's not just for, techies.
Right.
It's for everybody.
Absolutely. So how do you personally stay ahead of the curve? What advice would you give our listeners? And not just in terms of programming, but for any field.
I think it's all about cultivating a mindset of curiosity.
Okay.
Subscribe to industry newsletters, listen to podcasts,
Wink, wink.
take online courses. There are so many incredible resources out there, like Coursera, ADX. They offer a wealth of knowledge on virtually any topic.
It's amazing how accessible knowledge has become these days. And, speaking of looking at things from a fresh perspective, the article really struck a chord with me when it talked about the importance of user-centric thinking.
Yeah, it's something that's often overlooked, but it's crucial. And not just in tech.
Yeah.
Whether you're designing a website, writing a report, or even just having a conversation, considering the perspective of your audience, that's paramount.
It's about empathy, right?
Yeah.
Putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to see the world through their eyes.
Exactly. And I love how the article emphasizes that this user-centric thinking applies to more than just end users in the traditional sense.
Right.
It's about recognizing that in any interaction, you're essentially creating an experience for someone else.
Right.
Whether it's a presentation, a product, or even just an email, considering their perspective can make all the difference.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, I like that.
And that care translates into understanding their needs, their perspectives, their pain points.
It's so true. And it's funny, we often box ourselves in thinking, oh, that's just for programmers, or that's just for designers.
Yeah.
But this whole deep dive has really highlighted how these principles are just universally applicable.
Absolutely. At their core, these are problem-solving strategies.
Right.
And that's something that we all do every single day, often without even realizing it.
Right.
Whether you're navigating a complex project at work or simply trying to figure out the best route to avoid traffic, you know?
That programmer-like approach can make all the difference.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is, these aren't some innate abilities. These are skills that can be learned and honed. We've talked about breaking down problems, planning strategically, embracing creativity. These are all like muscles we can strengthen with practice.
I love that analogy. And just like any workout routine, the key is to start small.
Right.
And gradually build up. You don't have to go from zero to coding a complex app overnight.
Right.
Start by applying these principles to everyday situations. Maybe try that 5-minute plan before tackling your next task. Or use the rubber duck method to troubleshoot a problem.
Those are such great actionable takeaways.
Yeah.
And, one of the most important lessons I think we can glean from this whole deep dive is the power of perspective.
Yeah.
That idea of stepping back, looking at a problem from different angles, considering the user's point of view,
Yeah.
I think that's where the real breakthroughs happen.
It reminds me of that quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Yeah. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective, a willingness to challenge our assumptions, explore new approaches to unlock a whole new world of possibilities.
So well said. This has been such an insightful journey into the world of programmer thinking, and we've only just scratched the surface. But if there's one thing we want you to take away from this deep dive, it's this.
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself by thinking these are just tech skills.
Yeah.
These are life skills,
Absolutely.
and they're available to anyone who is willing to embrace that curiosity, challenge those assumptions, and just approach the world with that problem solver's mindset.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration as much as we have, and we can't wait to dive into another topic with you soon. Until then, keep those minds sharp and keep exploring new ways to navigate the world around you.